Welcome to the Rebel Rise podcast, a place where values-driven founders on a mission for more come to connect, learn, and grow. Here, we celebrate the relentless spirit of leaders building businesses that create real good for their clients, communities, and the world. No subject is off limits, and every episode is designed to bring you clear strategy, steady leadership, and people-first operations you can actually sustain. Get ready to grow ethically, lead well, and build something that works without burning you out. Your impact journey begins right here. Let's go. Today, I'm joined by Sarah Johnston, CEO of Aras Haus, a firm built for that messy middle of growth when the vision is clear, but the structure hasn't caught up yet. Aras Haus exists to help founders connect strategy to execution, bringing together strategic thinking, operational design, and hands-on support so the business can carry its own momentum. Their work is rooted in making expansion feel steady, supported, and intentional. That way it's never chaotic, not isolating, and not dependent on one person holding everything. All right, Sarah, welcome to the podcast. I am so excited to have you here today and to discuss what it is that your expertise is. So can you start by telling us a little bit about how Aras Haus came to be? Because I know it's something that you are super passionate about.
Yes, 100%. So it's kind of been a winding road. And I think like most entrepreneurs, that's the case because I haven't always been a business owner. I started my world in the corporate industry. And so I was in corporate for about 12 years. I left that about 2.5 years ago. And when I left, I didn't exactly have a massively scaled out game plan, but I ended up connecting with Tara, who is now my co-founder of Aras Haus, who owned her business at the time. And she's one of those people, I don't know if this is you or the listeners, who we just felt that immediate yes, right? That intuitive, very connected, very cosmic type of thing. And so I started working for her business, and she was mainly focused on operations and doing operational work for clients where her brain really thrives and really works. But where my side of the brain comes from is traditionally more marketing and visionary work and behavior change and mindset and coaching. And I kind of missed using that part of my brain. And I ended up kind of doing it for clients, just not in an official capacity, right? So I was starting to kind of think about 2 years into working with her. We had kept coming back to this, like, how can we do more, right? We're wanting to do more. We work so well together. We know we're meant for more. Like, what is this next step? And it's kind of funny because if you know me, I am not a good sleeper. And I promise the story is going somewhere. I have terrible insomnia. And I'm awake in the middle of the night one night, and I'm thinking to myself, everyone always says it's so funny that Tara and Sarah rhyme. And then I start to go down this iteration of our names. And then I'm like, ARA, ARAS, the Aras, House of Aras. So I'm thinking about this at 3 a.m. And the next day I get on and I ping Tara and I say, hey, I have kind of an insane idea. She's like, lay it on me. So I tell her, I think that there's some real legs here, right? We have really found a lot of need and success for clients in their operational design, but I think a lot of these founders are also struggling with this visionary piece and how these two tie together. I also thought of a name at 3 a.m. and this is it. So it was this kind of melding moment where we realized, okay, no, this really, I think, has some gussy here, because so often we see that people are running so far forward and so quickly that their foundation isn't matching what their vision holds. And either their team is growing really fast and it's outgrowing the foundation that they've built, or they're in a smaller home than they can handle with what their structure and what their organization needs. And so we put together a business in Aras Haus that really ties these two together, where we're understanding your goals and your vision of your business and where you really see yourself, and then how the structure of that business can hold you and support you in the now, and then also as you're scaling and as you're growing in a business. So the origins of it is kind of funny, which I think really makes sense if you know Tara and I, were I'm like, it came to me in a fever dream. Um, but I think it really ties in our strengths together, and it's a unique position within the market because we see a lot of these in silos, and so we're bringing it together.
Yeah, and I love that you are bringing all these things together because those are all the things that people need the most, right? Which I know you just lightly touched on, but I love, first of all, I'm the also astrology or spiritual download type of girly too, so I totally resonate
Yes.
with this. Like all of the ideas I have are like, I don't know, it just came to me. It's aligned. It feels great, but what you two have put together is truly incredible because it is all of the things that as entrepreneurs we overlook in the first few
Hmm.
years. And the next thing you know, you turn around as an entrepreneur and you're like, oh, wait, I have to backtrack. And now I've got to figure this piece out. And I never really thought about it. And I love that you bring up marketing because marketing is what I have the most in-depth conversations about with my clients. And
Hmm.
honestly, like, because coaches need coaches, that I struggle with in my own businesses as well. And so I feel like, the concept of establish your ideal client, figure out, who you serve and how you're selling it to. That is kind of beat to death, but it doesn't even really scratch the surface with what it is that you need to be able to be clear on to have effective marketing. So I'm curious if you run into that too, and what is the number one thing that you tell people that helps them for it to click in for them to be able to figure that out.
Yeah. And I think it also changes a lot as organizations grow. So
Yeah.
it what we often see, especially with the marketing piece where there might be a disconnect, is how you did it maybe in the beginning, even if it works, isn't necessarily how it needs to be done as the business scales and how it
Hmm.
and as it grows. And what we often see, at least in the world that we operate in, is marketing starts to feel fraught because different departments aren't talking to each other. And, you know, operations isn't talking to product, which isn't talking to service, which isn't talking to technology, which isn't talking to the social media team. And so all of a sudden, these disparate systems start to feel really overwhelming. And that comes across in marketing, whether that's kind of this mishmash stuff going out that doesn't seem cohesive and doesn't really feel like it's flowing. Maybe it kind of seems like it's fractionalized because there's no clear systems in place of what needs to go out and when. And so all of a sudden there'll be like 15 posts in a row and then crickets for 3 weeks. And so I think the evolution of marketing is a really tough one where people kind of come in and say, well, this is how we've always done it. And a big part of my job is to say, well, why are you so opposed to changing it? Like,
Yes.
why are we so opposed to not thinking of something else and not also thinking of a way to make this less stressful for you? And so every team knows what is needed from them in order for this piece of the puzzle to go out. Because what a lot of people don't remember is like a post going on Instagram is the last piece of that puzzle. And how many people actually have to interact with that for it to get there is the chaos that happens behind the scenes. So really we need to get clear on who needs input, who needs to have visibility on this, who needs to participate or contribute to this, what needs to happen, what are these platforms that you're using, where do you want this to go out? And yes, of course, pillars and strategy goes into that, but oftentimes people get stuck in this, well, it's how we've always done it. And a big part of my world is to say, well, we got to kind of shake that up because there might be a better way. And with that sometimes comes friction
Huh?
and resistance to change and this, well, it's the devil I know, right? It's just I do it because I always have, or it's what the person before me told me to do. Um, and so that's where we start to see all of these silos just not talking to each other, where we're like, why isn't the person that you need this input from easily reachable, or why don't they even know they need to give it to you? Like why isn't this connecting? And figuring out those pieces to the puzzle to make that a bit less chaotic, because that also then just causes internal friction, and everyone's kind of pissed off, and everyone feels like they don't have things under control, and it becomes this animosity, right? It becomes this thing that just sucks. So I say, when someone is looking in the marketing world, is like, yes, we need to take a dive into that strategy, right? We need to understand what exactly you're trying to do within your marketing. Also, we need to take a look at how you're doing it to see if that needs to evolve, because it most likely does.
Yeah. And I also love that you bring up the chaos of non-communication, because you often have, and I'm guilty of this as well. You have this person sitting at the top who they're the visionary, and they're like, execute this, execute that, execute this. And if they're fortunate enough to have been able to have given their team the trust to step away, right? Then it's almost like their eye is so far off of what the vision is that they pass down. They don't have a checks and balances on it either. And so when you step in, I imagine it's much like, what I do when I step in with a client too. And it's like, I've got to untangle this rat's nest first before you can even get to that point of them communicating.
Correct. Yeah. And I think what's interesting and what we see with clients sometimes is the problem they think they have isn't necessarily the problem they have. And that's a big piece of stepping in. I'm sure you experience this too, where it's almost like, okay, let's step back. Let's sort of walk me through what's happening here. Because I think it would be a disservice to them to just say, okay, let's hit the ground running with what exactly the exact thing that you said. Because oftentimes we start to realize, oh, this actually isn't a marketing problem necessarily. This is a gap in communication problem, or this person didn't even know they had to do something. And there's a way that we can work on this, right? So that's where we really started to see a gap in the market. Is there's a lot of people coming in offering services that work in these silos, right? They work in these independent pillars of these businesses. And it's not, once you start to get to a certain point, maybe for a solopreneur, that works because they are all of the pillars, right? A lot of us have known that game well, right? Where you are all of the things. Yep. But as you start to grow a team, that's where things start to devolve. And leaders need to be able to step out because they're going to go insane if they have to have their hands in everything. They hire people for a reason. But that's where we start to just see this friction and this mix between, okay, you're saying you want this, your foundation is saying something else. So we need to start to bring this together. And then along the way, making sure everyone's feeling supported with this way of working.
Yeah. And I think that one of the things that's super important, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you probably see this more than I do, but making sure as a founder, when you do bring people on, that it's the right people. And it's not just, oh, well, my friend needed a job or this person needed a job. Because not only, first of all, does it take a ton of work to be able to step away from your baby so that you can go focus on those visionary things, but you're literally entrusting these pieces of your business to people. And so I've talked about this on the podcast before, but it's so important for you as the founder to know how to do that job, even if you don't want to do the social media or the marketing or understand the finances, because then you already have an understanding of what's required. So making sure that when you understand what's required, putting the right person in place, not just somebody who you like, because it's also going to be harder to manage them later. But then how can you trust that those things are getting done? Because just as much as they still need to have a little bit of a pulse on what's happening in all those departments, they need to be stepped out enough for that person to replicate that piece of their brain. So I'm just curious how often you see that that's an issue too, that you've got to kind of help with.
Yeah, 100%. And that's definitely with growing and scaling teams, something we work with our clients on. And we have a client in particular who's had some pretty rapid growth where there has been a need to hire. And it's an interesting conversation because I see it where a lot of leaders actually kind of don't have, well, like, what is the role? And they're like, um,
Yeah,
and we're like, we need to make sure we have like a lot of clarity on what that is. Um, and oftentimes, especially in this small business and startup world, the onboarding process isn't really fully up to speed and up to scale. So those, when someone's looking to hire and they come to us, we really need them to get clear on the role and responsibility of what they're looking to hire at any level, right? From anything the most junior up to executive level leadership. And I 100% agree with what you were saying is like, I believe as a leader of an organization as well, you should know how to do the things within the organization, even if it's not in your purview. But really understanding what are the expectations of this person, what's going to be part of their purview, and then aligning the resources that they're going to need to be successful. I've personally been in organizations before in the corporate world where I believe employees were set up to fail, right? In a lot of ways, where you come in and they say, do the job. And you say, well, how? And they say, figure it out. And that's just not a good model, in my opinion.
totally.
And I think, especially when organizations scale quickly, the gut reaction is to hire fast. So that push pull of like, I understand the needs of the organization needs a butt in a seat and it needs to happen fairly rapidly. But we have to look out long term here, right? Long term, we need to make sure this is the right fit. Because ultimately, if it's not, it's going to cause you more time than the little bit of extra time we're taking right now to ensure this person is going to come in and do the job and then stick around. So we definitely do see that, and I think it's a couple things. A little bit of fear sometimes of like, oh my God, we have too much work to do. We just need to get someone in to do it. Again, that lack of sometimes system with onboarding, right? They get someone in, and if there's not the resources in place for them to really get in and thrive, that's part of the problem sometimes. And then we've seen it sometimes before too, where they kind of don't even really know what they're hiring for. And you're like, well, we need to get that probably nailed down before we put this out there to make sure the skill sets are aligning on this end. So we definitely see it. And we have to get them to slow down sometimes. And I like to say, slow down now to speed up later. Okay. Like that's what we have to think about here.
Such solid advice. And I know with Benefit Bar too, in particular, because as my consulting, it's just me. I'm still solo there. But with my bartending business, I had to bring bartenders on. And so in that circumstance too, I was very clear on what the job is, right? I could tell you what a bartender needs to do all day, but what I didn't do, the same as you were saying, is take the time to put the right person in place. Instead, it was initially I wanted somebody that I knew because I felt like I could trust them versus somebody that I didn't know. So instead of me prioritizing skill set, I was still bringing on people initially who had the experience, like they knew how to bartend, but it didn't work out for me in the long end. They were all falling off. And then it was kind of feeling like it was affecting our actual relationship on the other side. And they, never bothered to say, hey, I don't want to keep helping. They just kind of ghosted me. And so what I learned the hard way also is like, you can be super clear on what it is too, but again, not rushing, like you said, through the hiring process, actually taking the time to say, okay, who is the actual right fit? Because now I have a team in place where I know exactly where they fit. Like I've got one that prefers our coffee service, and I have one who is building her own business. And so she's much more flexible and ready to go all in on what I need. So she's my lead bartender. And so one thing I wish I had done with the team building in retrospect was take the time there too. So the systems, the onboarding, but also who would be the ideal person, like taking the time to write that out. And so even if I'm thinking about asking a friend to fill this in, do they check the boxes? And if not, having the bravery and trust within myself to hire the right person instead, even if I don't know them.
Yeah. And we see this a lot as well because change is very hard.
Hmm.
Habitual is where we will always go. Comfort is where we will always go. Humans, as
Yes.
human beings, that is what will happen. And leadership is not always a straight path. And I have made plenty of very expensive mistakes in my time, and I've learned things the hard way as well. I think we all have to. But that is something a lot of leaders do struggle with, right? This like, well, I feel bad. I feel bad. And you can, right? You have empathy, you're a human being.
Hmm.
Um, but this kind of push-pull of like what's right for my organization sometimes can't have these feelings. You can't
Yeah.
really always have feelings dictating that. Logic has to dictate that. And I don't mean for that to sound cruel, but people do. And I've struggled with it myself. And we see our founders struggle with this. Well, it's tough. These are tough decisions that you have to make sometimes where your instinct is to be in that comfy, cozy, what you've done, habitual path because it feels less scary. Um, and so working with this like behavior change too of like, I know that this is not the most comfortable path for you. Um, a lot of times bringing like data and logic for some people helps where I'm like, let's look at numbers. Helps some people. I'm like, let's look at actual metrics. I've calculated out some stuff for you. That helps some people. Everyone's kind of different, but it is tough. And I want to acknowledge that. And no one is immune to it,
Hmm.
even if they present that they are. I don't believe anyone's immune to feeling these types of things as a founder or as the leader of an organization, whether you manage people or you don't. Um, it's a hard job. And so I think we give people the space to feel that with us and say, ooh, I'm having a moment, and allowing them to be human, because that's, I think, what we try to do as well is like, we don't project to be perfect. We don't project to get it right all the time. I have bad days. I really struggle with some decisions. I'm a person. And I think we make that very clear, and that's not for everyone, but it's a big part of our business is humanness. Human connection is like, we're real people that are going to allow you to be a real person too. And I think that matters.
I agree. And that's one thing that I've loved about getting to know you too so far, Sarah, is that I felt that from you. Like when we had our first call, when we first met, like I felt that there was a very authentic presence about you and how you represent your business. And that's something that is a huge value for me as just a regular human being, but also as an
Thank you.
entrepreneur, are people who really stand firm in their boundaries and their uh, idea of what they want to bring forward and how they want to show up in business instead of selling their soul, so to speak, just to get, these huge high ticket deals. It's like we want to focus most first and foremost on how we're showing up, how we're making people feel, and allowing them the space to just be. Because within your business, you guys could also essentially just be very cut and dry, very matter of fact. And some people love that kind of service, but then there are people who want to feel seen and they want to feel heard, and they don't want to feel like they're just another number. And so I also appreciate that about you. And I love to highlight businesses that do that thing as well. So I'm so glad that you brought that up, because it's just so important. It makes, me as the client feel very safe to open up. And I think that's also why it's so important that you have that coaching component in there too, with that experience, because you're able to hold space for that. So if I show up to a call with you and I want to break down and just cry for 30 minutes, like, how to handle
And
that. And you're not just
we
like,
do it. We do it. And
yeah,
sometimes honestly we do it internally, right? I
yeah.
think the reason I, and co-founding is an interesting kind of aspect to this too, because Tara and I are 50-50, right? We are in on this together, and we bring a lot of very similar things to the table, but we have some interesting differences as well. But that's a lot of our core values are very on par, right? That's the thing I think that ties us together and ties our organization together. And we're big on that, where I can slack and just be like, today's not my day. I'm not going to be on camera. It's just a no, I'm not full capacity. I don't know what's going on, right? I'm honest about that. It's anyone that works for us knows that's part of it. And then really leaning on each other for that type of support, not only in business and what needs to get done, and really appreciating and leveraging our strengths and what we're good at, and appreciating that and allowing each other to take ownership of what we need to take ownership of. But also, like, I couldn't imagine not doing it with her for sanity's sake and purpose of just having it feels like another just person that gets it and is in it and allows me to have myself and show up as myself, whatever that may be that day, and vice versa to her. So I think it comes from experience of not feeling seen like that in prior organizations. And so I try to take that and emulate what I would have wanted as support in my career elsewhere, and bringing that into our organization as we lead it and with our clients.
Yeah. And just think that self-awareness is so important. So I'm curious, what is, of all of the things that you do at Aras Haus, what is your favorite thing? Like your nerd out bread and butter thing that you could talk about all day?
Ooh, I really like I mean, this is like a specific thing, but when a system hits, like, and this just happened, what was it, 2 days ago? We've been working on something for almost a year with this client, literally a year. And we finally got to the point where she sent us a Slack that said, this is the first time I feel like the vision has landed. And it was a
Yes.
combination of a tech integration, a tech migration, a platform integration, like all this operational infrastructure. We're both going at it. We're both moving at it. And it's this moment in a singular message, a singular sentence that makes it all worth it, right? This like, boom, yes, screenshot, put it in the rainy day folder for when you're having a bad day and you need a little pep in your step, highly recommend. But those small moments, I think, are some of my favorite, where it's when clients have these aha moments of like, oh my God, this is it, right? And then I think really some of the biggest yeses for me, and where I feel like I do the most impactful work, is when clients tell us they feel lighter mentally. A lot of clients come to us saying the chaos in their brain feels incredibly overwhelming. The mental load and the tax that lives in their head feels so demanding, so loud, and honestly crushing. And as we start to work together and we start to put system and structure into place and we start to do some of these coaching things, to hear them say they feel lighter, to me, is one of the most rewarding parts of my job, to know that that's freeing up space to do things they actually enjoy. And it's
Yeah.
not just cluttering their brain with this stuff they don't like. Because I know what it feels like to feel cluttered.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think one of the more rewarding aspects of this is when people tell me, they're like, wow, my brain feels quieter and I can actually like have some time to do an activity I enjoy rather than trying to sort through this noise that lives in my brain. Um, it's definitely something that I hold pretty cherished in our work.
Yeah, I love that. It's got to be a great feeling because as you're talking about this, I'm thinking about how much I love that when I get everything out of my head onto a list. I'm a list girly. I like to check things off, and I get overwhelmed really easily when it's all up here and I don't have things organized. So I can only imagine how good it must feel to be able to have that for multiple people. It's got to scratch a good itch in your brain for sure.
And we work with a lot of, our base is female,
Mhm.
female founders. And I think it's really special to be able to empower females in particular, to go out and get it, right?
Yeah.
Like, it has been really cool to see, I think, this pivot of women in particular, standing up and starting things and getting messy and getting themselves out there and trying. And to be able to support that, I don't take that lightly, right? I think it's a great honor to be along for that ride and to be able to give women a voice to stand up and say, I deserve to be here, right? I am worth it. Like my business is awesome. And giving them that confidence too. And we've had some clients too that have been like, I've gotten some really cool opportunities and I deserve to be there. I'm like, yes, you do,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So we've created this very empowering environment, and I think it's made me a better leader, and it's given me more fire to do more for our business and want to expand our business to give more opportunities to others. So that's been kind of this like bystander effect, I guess, of all of this is this kind of like girl power that I've
Yeah.
felt through all of this, which has been really fun.
Yeah. Would you say that that is your like deep down why is just to help empower other women, or is there another thing that drives you?
Yeah, I think, my yes, I think ultimately because when I left corporate, one of the main reasons I left was I didn't really feel supported as a female, but things really took a turn when I got back from maternity leave, so I didn't feel supported as a mother is
Mm,
what it came down to.
yeah.
So I ultimately ended up leaving and starting my own thing, which has turned into something so wonderful, but that is not an uncommon problem I see and I hear within the working world. And a big piece of this is yes, I do want to show people that it's hard work. You know it firsthand. It is hard as heck. It's going to be hard, but it is worth it. And if you want something, you can. Yes, you can. You are smart enough, you are capable enough, you are just as qualified and just as worthy of being in any single room that a man is, right? So I take my personal experience and it's a big driving factor for me because I did witness firsthand just how less than people treated me. Well,
Yeah.
quite literally once I became a mom um in corporate, and I want people to know that that's not how it has to be. Like it you don't have to sacrifice that to be a worthy person, right? So for sure it is a big fire starter for me.
If there's a woman right now listening who is maybe a mom and is feeling just like you were talking about, what is one thing you would say to her that you think would help get her to put her foot on the gas and take a step in the right direction?
That's a great question. I was actually just talking to Tara about this morning because it's a unique, and you're talking a mom in specific.
Yeah.
For a mom in specific, my biggest advice is you can do a lot, you can't do it all. And so don't pressure yourself, especially as a lot you look at the internet and everyone seems to be doing everything all the time and doing more than you. Set yourself challenging but attainable goals. But don't sacrifice your boundaries, right? If you want to spend time with your baby, spend time with your baby, right? So set yourself attainable goals, right? And make it work for you. And if that means you're getting up at 5 a.m. and doing some of this before your baby gets up, that's great, right? But don't feel like you have to be 100% to everything and everyone, right? Look at your schedule, look at your routine, figure out something that's going to challenge you, but it's not going to mean that you have to become three people, right? And it's tough. It's harder than it sounds, but I think that's my biggest piece of advice is like don't let the guys of Instagram fool you into thinking that somehow because I see it, these moms that are like, I started a business. I'm like, you have 3 nannies and a chef, and you're just like not telling people that, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
let's make sure we're not looking at things through rose colored lenses. Um, and then celebrate your wins, right? Celebrate your wins along the way. It's okay to be scrappy. It's okay to learn. It's okay to get it done. It's okay to not know the answer. It's okay to ask for help, right? I think a lot of us, in particular women, feel like we need to know it all. And it's okay to think to yourself, I don't know that, but I will find out, right? And if you feel like, oh my gosh, I can't do it all, it's because nobody can. And that's okay, right?
Yeah.
Remind yourself of that. Like, not one single person can do it all the time, always. So
100%.
that's where I would start with that. And you're not alone, believe me. You're not alone if you feel like you're in maybe a corporate environment. And if you need an ear, please reach out, because I've been there.
Yeah, she's got you. She's got you.
No. Yes, I do.
So now I'm curious, would your answer be different if it wasn't just for moms and it was women in general? How much would that differ? Because I feel like even what you said, like that even applies to me, and I'm not a mom. I have to remember that I can't do everything.
It does. It does. And I don't mean to like pit, moms versus not moms. It's just like, when you have a child under a certain, I have a 3-year-old, he still sometimes needs help, wiping his butt. I'm needed in a capacity sometimes. That's just a little different.
Yeah.
So it does still apply, right? And I think it's a good lesson for humans in general, right? Cannot have the expectation that we can thrive at 100% to every single thing in our lives. And then you can apply this actually to anything, right? You probably have a very rich social life. You have friends, you have parents, maybe you have siblings, maybe you have, anything that you want to apply that to. I know people that take care of family members, right? Everyone has priorities that are going to be in front of them, right? So I don't mean to just say it's like only moms that have it hard. Everyone has stuff that's going to be on that list. I will just say, like, in my experience, this morning, my Tara, pinged me, can you meet at 8:30? And I was like, well, no, because I'm still not done dropping off Ronan at daycare. Right. So there's just some things that I'm limited on right now. And I don't think that that's a dirty word necessarily. Some people are like, moms aren't limited. And I'm like, yeah, but I have to be I can't be on a computer while driving. Right. So I chose that, and I love that, and I love it, and that's wonderful. But anyone has to look at what they have at hand.
Yeah.
Right. Whether you're in school full time and trying to start a job, you need to go to those classes. That's on your agenda of things that need to happen. Everyone's going to have to slot around the things that they need to do in any way, shape, or form, whatever you have going on. And so it is a reminder really for everyone.
Yeah.
That you can't do it all.
Yeah. And I often find myself every day, I look at my calendar and I live and breathe by my calendar. And if something is wrong with my calendar, which, I think we had it, the first time we were supposed to connect, my calendar was not speaking to my main calendar. And so
yes,
I live and breathe by my calendar. And I spend time every morning looking at, okay, what are all of these commitments that I have? And what is my most high priority items? Because sometimes, yesterday was a great example. I got up and I was like, oh my God, what did I do to my day? Like, I completely fucked my day yesterday. I'm just going to come right out and say it. And I had to cancel some things. So like, I don't know if you were at Founders yesterday, but that's why I was not there, because I was like, that is something I can't do today. I had to cut out things that I really wanted to do because there were other things that had deadlines and things that were more important. And so that's how I guess I maintain the illusion of balance in my life. But sometimes, you have to make sacrifices to move things around, just like driving your son to school.
Exactly. And yesterday I had to miss as well because my son decided to be up from like 2 a.m. to 5:30 a.m. and then he slept until 8:15. And then I couldn't get out the door fast enough, and this and that and here and there, right? And so we have to roll with the punches sometimes. And there's an exercise I actually have a lot of my clients do, and I have a lot of people do. And it's basically an Excel spreadsheet where you input every single thing that you need to do over the course of a week, right? To survive. You have to do your job. You have to, there's basic hygiene, there's clean, right? Ultimately, you are left with the number that's your flex. And people don't really realize like that number actually, like, people blow way out of proportion. They're like, oh, I thought I had like 20 hours a week when they have like 6. And I'm like, right, because maybe you are taking care of a family member, or you're going to school, or your commute is 2 hours, whatever the case may be, right? Everyone's going to fill up their week with these things that need to happen. And then what you're left with is going to be different. That's what you have to look at. That's what you need to look at is that number. And no is a full sentence. And a lot of people struggle with that, where it's like, no, and not having to over explain yourself as to why. So, I mean, I'm proud of you for
thanks
readjusting because it's not as easy as it sounds. It's not always easy. To be like, oof, I have to do what needs to be done.
And that's something that I learned the hard way is, I absolutely could have pushed myself to accomplish all of these things. And my mental health yesterday would have been awful. And I've had to learn too, to care for that and to care for me first as well. So if sometimes saying no to something that I really wanted to do means that I can sit in silence and like calm the chaos for a moment, then it's a really even trade, because by the end of the day yesterday, I missed 3 things yesterday that I really wanted to do. But by the end of the day, I was like, okay, I felt calm. I felt accomplished. I still got a lot of things done. And I've just learned over time from making this mistake so many times and burning the candle at both ends and not canceling things and not getting comfortable saying no, that now I'm finally in a place where I can do that. And I still feel good by the end of the day. And I'm not riddled with guilt.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, believe me, like I think as business owners with our clients, but we're like, say no. You have to get comfortable saying no. It's a conversation I have actually quite frequently. I have it with my husband too, where I'm like, you have to say I'm like, you need to be like bitchier, like say no. That man is very kind, but it's been really fun. And I've been all the twists and turns it took to get here. Especially now being in this space with Tara, and I'm glad that you're kind of a woo-woo girly too, because I'm like the cosmos have led me to this path. I am sure of it. And I was patient enough and to listen and get there. And I'm very glad that it did.
Yes. Well, if anybody wants to connect with you, where can they find you? Where is it best for them to come and learn more about you?
Yes. So you can go to our website, www.arashaus.com, which is ARASHAUS. And you can find us on Instagram at Aras Haus. And if anyone wants to send me an email, sarah@arashaus.com, you can go ahead and do that.
Beautiful. And I'll make sure all of that is in the show notes as always, so that it's nice and easy to click and easy to find her. Thank you so much for being here, Sarah. This was such a fun conversation. And I'm positive that I know I got some takeaways. So I know that our listeners are going to get a lot of takeaways too. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Of course. Thank you. Always a delight to see you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Rebel Rise podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and invite your friends to join us next week. This is your time. Now get out there and rise.